While you were speaking, I just did the search. This is national membership by year from 22 to 1950, right? And you see it increases a little bit right after war. Obviously, the date you gave, Bolshevik was 1917, US was 1919, and China was 1921. It's almost every 2 years, one of them came out with their Communist Party. So the membership's going up while the economy's bad. But the moment the economy improves, membership goes down. The moment 1929 crash happens, look how the membership goes up. Because it's all, they need a massive crisis for them to push their agenda. The moment the economy recovers, their memberships goes down. It's such a tough time for these guys today to make their argument because the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting richer. So it's, the saying where the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. The only part that makes sense is the following. I was a kid that grew up in a family where my dad was a 99-cent store cashier in Inglewood. My dad never sat me down and explained to me what a 401k is. My parents have never owned a 401k. My parents have never owned a stock, a mutual fund, an annuity, an insurance policy, a life insurance policy. Never owned a house. I've never lived in a house. I've always lived in an apartment complex. Nobody told me, here's what rule of 72 is. Here's what here's what buy and hold is. Here's what the dollar cost averaging is. Here's what a Roth IRA is. I don't know any of that kind of stuff. My dad was a cashier at a 99-cent store. He was making $1,500 a month is what he was making. So that was never taught to me about how money worked. And so gradually, the rich got richer and the poor is getting richer. We're making more money in every possible way. Life is getting better. So their argument isn't working. So in order for them to effectively impose their argument, they have to go back to what you were talking about, Antonio Gramsci, which, he talks about cultural hegemony, which I'm sure you're familiar with cultural hegemony. If by the way, I don't want to read the definition. Would you mind taking a quick second here and telling everybody what cultural hegemony is? I'm sure you've spoken about this in your book.
I do write about it in the book. He's written, there's a short, if I'm not mistaken, there's a short paper even that you can go read about this, understanding cultural hegemony. But we did touch upon it earlier. It's this idea, as you pointed out. Look at the graph that you put up on the screen there. Remember, there was Frankfurt School Marxists that came over into the United States on the tail end of that crash in the beginning of the 1930s, and you see the Communist Party USA numbers boom during that period. And it's the same time period that Gramsci and others are pushing this idea that you have to divorce people in Western society from their traditional values, their traditional culture, their traditional norms, and you need to replace it with a different set of values, a different set of norms, and a different culture. And if you're able to do that successfully, now, as you pointed out, the economic stratification argument, the idea that the working class is going to continue getting poorer and need to rise up in revolution against their captors, the capitalist ruling class, that was not a successful narrative to use to spur violent revolution in a place like the United States. But that's when, that same time period where the numbers are booming there, and when we're talking about cultural hegemony, Antonio Gramsci and others that are grabbing a hold of that idea that we should divorce people from their traditional values and replace it with a separate ideology. During that same period is when you see the development of both critical theory and it morph into critical legal theory. Let me read you something from my book just briefly here.
Please.
That I've got, because it gets right at, it's going to take me 10 seconds to find it. So here it is. It actually took me 3 seconds to find it.
You're good. You're a fighter pilot. Not surprised.
I didn't even have it marked. Page 102 of my book. So today, critical legal scholars at Harvard University help us make the link between critical legal theory and the now popular and pervasive critical race theory. The Harvard Berkman Klein Center has a page on their website about critical legal theory today, specifying what it is, and it's related to what we're talking about. Critical legal theory scholars focused from the start, this is a direct quote from their website, on the ways that law contributed to illegitimate social hierarchies. Okay, pay very close attention to the language. Producing domination of women by men, non-whites by whites, and the poor by the wealthy. This is a classic oppressor versus oppressed narrative that is showing up in our institutions of higher learning. They claim, this is again still a direct quote from the Harvard Berkman Klein Center's website, they claim that apparently neutral language and institutions, apparently neutral language and institutions, operated through law, mask relationships of power. The emphasis on individualism within the law similarly hides patterns of power relationships while making it more difficult to summon up a sense of community and human interconnection. Now, let me connect that quote from Harvard's website. Now, this is critical legal theory. This is a half century old to the current, far more politicized critical race theory. Ibram Kendi's book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, has come up a number of times in the media in the last few months, and specifically in the last week, I've talked about it. In the introduction to his book, and this is going to be some quotes directly from his book, Kendi mentions that color blindness, Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream and ideal for Western society and for American society specifically, color blindness is racist passivity. These are not my words, these are Kendi's words. Color blindness is a mask to hide racism, and the Constitution of the United States is a colorblind racist constitution for a white supremacist America. Those are ideological talking points that are rooted in Marxism with the intent on dividing the American people. Okay, so you can see how the idea of cultural hegemony, planting the seeds of division over time in our institutions of higher learning, manifests today tactically and methodologically in the writings of critical race scholars. And then he goes on to say, if you consider yourself not racist, I don't care what your race is, I don't care what your political party is, that is the language of neutrality, not racist. You are either racist and admit it, or you're racist and you deny it, confirming your racism. If you claim to be not racist, you are, quote, like the Trumps and other white supremacists of the world.
So if you like this little short clip from an interview I did, click over here to watch the entire interview. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.